Welcome. This is the Wild Wednesday webinar focused on waste and recycling. I'm here with Vivian Bowles. My name is Perry Thomas, and we welcome you. Today's roadmap includes introductions, a quick overview of Kentucky Green Schools, a review of the waste and recycling investigation, our partner spotlight with Angie Muncie from Boyle County, what you can count on for support for your Green School program, and a review of funding sources related to waste and recycling.
As we get ready to start our seminar today, our webinar today, I want us to think about where waste goes at the school that we're associated with. And so think about this statement. When students finish their lunch at my school, waste consists of what exactly, and where does it go? In some schools now, when students get their lunch, it's on the styrofoam tray, and at the end of the meal, they take the styrofoam tray and just dump everything into the waste receptacles that, of course, then are taken out to the dumpster and become part of the waste stream. In other schools, students may be putting their forks and silverware in a recycled food can from the lunch from the kitchen, and then scraping their plates and stacking those plates or trays, and they're taken to a dish room where they're washed and reused. So when you think of your school, think about just this one area for a moment. Where does lunch waste go? And now we can look at some green investigations for students at your school to answer this and other questions.
So the Kentucky Green Schools are designed as a way for students to analyze their school's environmental footprint and think of ways to reduce it, creating a more sustainable learning environment. As you probably know, there are 5 themed investigations, including one on energy, one on the school environment, that's the indoor environment, one on the school site, the outdoors, waste and recycling that we're focusing on today, and water. The waste and recycling investigations include the following objectives. We expect student teams to collect data. It doesn't have to include every single investigation that's recommended in the guide, but enough so that students have a sense of what waste gets thrown away, recycled, and composted during a single day at their school. We ask them to analyze the data and brainstorm ways to make improvements. That brainstorming is really critical, because then they can develop an understanding of how individual and collective student actions can affect the waste stream. In this way, students learn about sustainable approaches to waste management and understand why it is important to adopt sustainable practices. They generate a plan together, student-led, to improve their school's waste, recycling, and composting practices and overall sustainability, and then implement at least one of the strategies that they imagine.
As we look at the investigations or focus on the investigations in the investigation guides, I want to encourage you to go ahead and download the investigation guide for waste and recycling that you have access to once you register as a Green School in the Green School program. You can download all of the investigation guides from there. But the first thing you need to think about, and your team needs to think about, is why is what we throw away a problem? And then, of course, what can we do to reduce solid waste at our school? The investigation guide is a wonderful resource for you, the teacher. It is the teacher guide. And in the first section, the background information on pages 7 through 11 will give you, as the leader, some background information about waste. For example, the average person in the United States in the United States will throw away 4.4 pounds of garbage every day, meaning that the United States of America will have 254 million tons of garbage per year. That was a statistic from 2013, and the statistics all come from the EPA. And you will learn that 28% of the total waste at your school each year is probably paper, which is easily recycled. So you will have information to help you become a little more informed about the problems of waste. Of course, then your students will be doing research and finding out for themselves what problems waste can cause, and think of ways that they can reduce solid waste at school. So the investigations in the guide are designed to help your team identify what your school contributes to the waste stream and learn about waste management at your school. And the results that your students get, your team gets, will inform staff and students how they can reduce what goes into the waste stream by generating an action plan for your school. We're going to look a little bit, and I'll talk you through some of the waste and recycling investigation sheets. Just how to get started, if you look on page 12 and 13 of your guide, gives you some steps to guide you through the process. And then the first investigation in your investigation guide is just the demographics of your team. What is your school? Who are the people on your team? What do you can you plan to do? The investigation on waste removal is simply to find out, how is waste carried away from your school? There are a set of questions that students could find the answers from the custodial staff, the cafeteria staff, the office staff. You may invite people from the district, your school district, to come and answer questions about how much it costs to remove the waste from your school. This next investigation is on recycling program at your school. Now, we understand that not all communities have a recycling program, but it's good for your team to make that discovery themselves and say, whoa, I wonder why we're not recycling in our community. And that's usually the case. That's because there's not a place in the community for recycling. Another investigation has to do with composting. Is there a place to compost at your school? Where might a composter be at the school? Who is responsible for composting? What happens to the composted material once it is composted? And again, this could give your students an idea, your team an idea of maybe a way to make an improvement around the school. To start a composting program. And the fifth investigation has to do with waste reduction, reuse, and purchasing. And this is where your team would interview people from the office, people from the cafeteria, folks who are doing custodial work, just to see, and then again, folks at the district office, to see what is being reduced, reused, recycled, and not purchased at all, and how those can make a difference in your school. And then the last investigation is a waste analysis. Now, when you look at this waste analysis investigation, you may be excited to see that your students will be investigating all of the different areas, or you may feel intimidated by it. And I just want to reassure you that the investigation sheets are guides for you. They're not the recipes, the must-dos, and you can tailor any of the investigations to meet the needs of your students. Younger students would need more assistance. than older students. So feel free to make changes in any way that you think is needed for your students. We want to spotlight now a community partner, the Boyle County Solid Waste and Recycling Program. And we've asked Angela Muncie, the Solid Waste Coordinator, to share with us how she works with schools and teams in Boyle County. Angela?
Okay, thanks for having me. What I do, of course, I like to remind everybody that I am a certified environmental educator. So that helps a lot in, when I prepare to have the students or I go to the students. So this started with me in Boyle County when I was asked by a school to come to after school program. She had one and she wanted to start recycling, and her kids were interested. So I started off by inviting them, and I invite all schools, and since then it's become a thing that they come here to the recycling center as a field trip. And I put gloves on them, I put eyewear on them, and we're single stream, so they get to go up to the conveyor and we get to recycle. We get to sort through stuff. They get to see, what their school has, what the public gives us that we shouldn't have. So we have all that good stuff. And, I've had several kids leave. They've had such a good time that they want to be a recycler when they grow up. They want to come work for me. So I said, you hold that thought. But anyway, in the schools, in the school where, we were working at Edna Tolliver, she done several aspects to earn her first. And we're still, of course, getting ready to finish that up. So we done solid waste. Under the solid waste issue, we done litter. So they done the Literati app. I will go and I do a litter class. The class we've done here is, what's recyclable, what's not recyclable. We'll do crafts every now and then. For smaller kids, what I have learned, and I'm just going to throw that out there, and I hope we have time and I'm not messing up here. But I will buy like a cheap tarpaulin and lay it down, and I put different things on this tarp. And I let the kids, usually I might read a story about recycling, and then I'll have volunteer show me what's recyclable, and about it has to do with landfill, it has to do with recycling, has to do with litter. So they find out why we want to recycle and not put in the landfill, because they find out that if we take all this stuff away and recycle it, there's hardly nothing in the landfill left. So, it's a broad subject, but at the same time, you can get it all in one lesson. And I hope anybody understands that. If they don't, I am more than willing they can call me. Any teacher can call me from anywhere, and I'll be more than happy to help. This is my sorting line picture here. You can see the students up there. I take them through, of course, they get to be recyclers. I show them, the end product, what happens to it, where it goes, how it gets processed. So they're getting the whole picture of it after they come here. The fire truck, the trash truck picture you seen back a few slides ago. The teacher came up with the idea, said, the kids see the trash truck, but what does that trash truck do? How does it operate? So of course, Republic Services is, under contract with us. So I got the gentleman to bring it, which the gentleman had a blast with it. So, they turned it on and let them see everything. And of course, the kids, everybody has to take a turn. The men enjoyed it so much that they let the kids blow the horn. So what does that tell you? So, so I had a couple of them want to be garbage truck drivers. So that was that on that. There's there's a whole lot of little things you can do that means a lot. Um, Lindsay Wilson College was one of my favorites. Actually, the lady that brings her students here is also a graduate of the KAEE. She's a professor there, and she came up, and of course, the turtle is made with mostly Mountain Dew caps, as you can tell by the color. But her students here. She basically started the of coming here, and it just caught on with me and doing through everything else. So this, I just wanted to post this for ideas for, students, teachers, and, what have you. I'm trying to think, I rattle a whole lot, and, and Perry says stick to the subject. So I'm going to try to stick to the subject, because I can be all over. I'm passionate about I love what I do. I've done it for over 30 years. So, anybody that's in solid waste and recycling is as far as it's same as teaching school. If you don't love it and don't have a passion for it, you don't need to be in it. So, what are you thinking about, Vivian and Perry?
All right.
Am I left anything else? Yeah, I'm sure I left a whole lot out. So, throw them questions at me might be better.
I think you've given us some good ideas about what we're thinking. As teachers, and as Angela was saying, she's passionate about helping these students become leaders in the field of making decisions, or making suggestions, or coming up with plans on how to make improvements in their school. And solid waste is an area that is one that students could be thinking about. So as you listen to Angela, and I gave a very brief, quick overview of the investigation guides, have you had time to think about any opportunities at your own school? And we hope that you will jot down some ideas of what you see just when you eyeball your school. What are some opportunities there might be that students may have an interest in? I'm just going to share a quick little anecdote from one of my green teams. In fact, it was the first green team that I had, and the green team only started because the kids came to me with a problem they saw and wanted to be able to solve it. This was at a time when school cafeterias were being pushed to have more styrofoam trays to have lunch served on, and have the portions served in little styrofoam cups, so it would save time and the number of staff that would be needed in the kitchen. A way to save money and cut down on staff. And a student came to me and said, my grandmother said that if you will help me make a PowerPoint, we can ask the school board to stop using so much styrofoam. And so that was an opportunity that just was dropped on my lap. And how do you say no to an earnest little 10-year-old? So we polled the other fourth grade classes, and there was a team of I think 7 fourth graders and a set of first grade twin siblings of one of the students who started researching. I didn't have Kentucky Green Schools at my fingertip right then, but knew that, well, the students needed to get some information for themselves. So it was an opportunity for them to do some research about why styrofoam is being used, how it's produced, how it's disposed of. So they armed themselves with some information. Now, a barrier could have been that the school personnel would have said, nope, we're not changing from not using styrofoam. At my school, though, the cafeteria manager was on board with it. But there may be barriers for your school, not having the ability to initiate a project because of school regulations. It could be another barrier, such as we don't have, for example, recycling in our community. Another barrier could be there's schools are not allowed to have composters on site. So there could be some barriers for your teams and for your individual teams. Be thinking too about partnerships. Angela was talking about how she is a partner with all of the schools. She's available to go to the schools in Boyle County and to teach the students about solid waste. But most communities have access to the cooperative extension agents who can come and provide information for your students, especially in the area of composting and how to do it. And then be ready for what surprises you. Let your students surprise you. Let your school facility surprise you, and your team on how there may be more opportunities than you think to make some improvements in your school. In your investigation guide, in your teacher guide, on page 15, it gives you some examples of local partnerships that you could form. And they're pretty some are available to you, some are not. For example, in the Central Kentucky area, Bluegrass Green Source may be a resource for you, but in other places it might not be. But every community, every county has a solid waste coordinator, such as Angela. And you can you can find out from the QR code or the bit.ly how to get to the list of solid waste coordinators in Kentucky and find the solid waste coordinator for your community. And Angela, I'm just going to ask you a question here and put you on the spot. Do
Sure.
most of the solid waste coordinators on the list, the ones that you know, are they willing to come into schools or to talk to students about solid waste?
The majority of them are. I'm not going to sit here and say all of them will, but at least 50% of them I know loves to come to the school. You know, they might not be certified, but they're passionate.
All right.
They're more than willing. Most of your solid waste directors are also your recycling people as well. So use them. Even me being doing both and working with Tolliver, in the last little presentation we had here, I got them interested in batteries and hazardous waste. Taught them the lesson. They collected batteries from the public. I took their cans from the kitchen, that was rinsed out, their steel cans, and we had labels made that they sat in City Hall, the courthouse, and places, and we collected, we kept batteries out of the landfill.
All right.
So there's all kind of little projects that you can do out there to just little things can mean big things.
Right.
Don't ever think nothing's too small.
Right. And that is something that could be a surprise because it's not even mentioned in the investigation guides in the teacher guidebook. So be ready for those surprises. And Perry, you're going to talk about some more support.
Yes, and I'll just mention creativity is certainly encouraged. We did want to mention that there may be other partners interested in collaborating with you on these investigations. You'll find them on this map that's available on the Green School website. We also have a list of grant opportunities there. as well as ongoing professional development opportunities listed on our calendar on our website. And in the back of your waste and recycling investigation guide is a list of internet resources that, in addition to what we mentioned today. And we want to especially mention this example of a funding source with an upcoming deadline. If you haven't yet heard about our request for proposals for projects that would address climate literacy, urban forestry, and tree canopy coverage in schools, that RFP is now out. We're going to be awarding 10 grants of up to $2,500 each. The school must be in a disadvantaged area, and that's as defined by CGEST. It's a tool that's available through the request for proposals. There's a link there to take you to that community and environmental justice map that shows whether your school is in an underserved, overburdened area. The deadline for proposals is November 26th, and we want to emphasize that you might not at first think waste and recycling would qualify, but indeed, the process of recycling is a way of saving energy and ultimately mitigating the release of greenhouse gases that cause climate change. So recycling is certainly an important way of reducing the rate of climate change.
And if I just
Other
can,
funding, go ahead.
I was just going to interject. On page 8 in your investigation guide, there is a section on reducing waste and global climate change that could give you some information that you might want to include on your grant.
Yes. And other funding opportunities, keep your eye out for a request for proposals through Keep America Beautiful, the Martin Luther King Beautification Grants. That should come out in early 2025. Aldi, the supermarket, has a community gift card program that could be useful. And there's an apprentice ecologist initiative, as well as an additional list of waste management grants at this website.
And then we want to make sure that you and your team can be successful. So here's a little checklist of ways that you can ensure success for you and your team. The first is for you to become educated yourself on the topic of solid waste and recycling. There's some information, of course, in the teacher's guide, but there's a section on page 33 that's a series of questions for you to consider about you and the staff at your school. And what you and how familiar are you with the people that you could get your team in touch with to help you find answers to their questions. And then when your team is ready to come up with an investigation, a project in waste and recycling, before they create their action plan, how well are they prepared? And how well are they educated in the topic itself? They need to do more than just gather the information on the investigation guides. And this is a perfect opportunity for you to find ways to look at your school, your academic standards, and see how you can incorporate some of the information that they're learning in the lesson plans for the whole school population or the grade level that you're teaching, not just the 6 or 7 kids who are the leaders on your team. And there's a section in the back of the book about your project ideas. So they need time to do some brainstorming, what they might be able to come up with in regards to waste removal or recycling or composting or waste reduction, reduce, and reuse and purchasing. And then what kind of education, training, and community connections they can think of to help them with their projects. Oh, you're back up. There we go. There's also a section in here if your team chooses to send home information to homes, to their families about how they could green their own homes. You also want to help students get information about green careers associated with waste and recycling. And on page 14 in the guide is a list of some possible green careers. And you could choose some of the professionals from those careers to come and speak with your students even. And then we want your students to be recognized for the hard work that they do. Kentucky Green Schools has a recognition program where students in your school can become a green school. When your students complete one investigation and come up with one improvement plan, they're eligible to become a green school. And on the website is a link to get you to the recognition application form that you would fill out for your students. When schools complete 2 to 4 of the investigations, then they would become a silver leaf school. And these don't have to be done all in 1 year. It can take as many years as you need to reach each of the levels. And then when all of the investigations and improvement projects are completed, then your school becomes a gold level school. And each time you reach a new level, you receive another banner to put on your award. And then if you continue to do improvement projects, you become a model green school for each year that you complete a project. You also would be eligible for the Kentucky Association for Environmental Education Excellence in EE Award. And you would also your projects could qualify you to become a green school, a green ribbon school. And our partner at the Kentucky Environmental Education Council oversees the application process for that. And all the information is on our website and in the back of the investigation guide. Okay. I can't hear you, Perry.
Sorry about that. On mute. We wanted to thank you for participating and for thinking with us about the waste and recycling investigation. We hope you'll also join us for one of our next Wild Wednesday webinars focusing on the energy investigation. Choose between November 20th at 3:30 Eastern or December 11th at 3:30 Central. We hope to see you again. Thank you.